If you're thinking about building a PC now or even upgrading your existing PC, especially if you have an Nvidia GPU in mind, you may want to wait. Do not build yet. There are going to be some major reasons why now more than ever it makes sense. And you want to be careful in today's market because with GPU prices going down rapidly, you may be seduced or even tricked into thinking it may be a good time to buy now. I know it creates a weird feeling when, for example, we've lauded after something like an RTX 3070 or 3080 for the last 2 years without ever being able to find it at a cheap price or even MSRP. Now that we see them on the store shelves, it may create some type of like a Pavlovian reaction in your brain where you see it, and regardless of the logic behind a new release coming out, you may want it because it was out of your sights for such a long time. But I'm going to tell you, wait more because this is definitely going to be worth it. So if you're thinking, first we're going to talk about building a PC and upgrading your PC. They can be similar but also very different things. Now, if you're thinking about building a whole PC, you also have to worry about the CPU side. Pretty much everything is getting a little bit long in the tooth. AMD's Ryzen is set to be updated. That's the one that a lot of people went to last generation with X570. They're supposed to come out with their next generation. Who knows exactly when? We would hope by the end of the year, along with Intel releasing their 13th generation CPUs, the Raptor Lake, but it's hard to tell if it's going to come out this year or maybe soon after, but we're definitely due for an upgrade on the CPU side. That's really the note I'm going to make about that. I mean, if you get 12th gen Intel, it's going to be newer than the existing AMD platform, and yes, you are going to be able to drop in the 13th generation CPU from Intel into your current Alder Lake motherboard. So if you have a Z690 motherboard now, you should be able to put in a 13900K or whatever it may be. Now, with AMD, it's different. Their next generation Zen 4 is going to be completely different than their current X570 motherboards, than their current AM4. So you're not going to be able to drop in the CPU. You're going to need a whole new motherboard as well as an entirely new CPU. So if you want to be safe and you need to get something now, I would say probably get a Z690. Down the road, you can upgrade to the next CPU when that comes out. So now let's talk about the really important aspect here, and that's going to be the GPU. All the other components for building a PC are pretty readily available, including cases and power supplies and things like that. Now, the Nvidia GPUs have been really difficult to get the last few years, and of course AMD as well. Now we have definitely a big problem. There are many GPUs in stock. Nvidia and AMD know this, especially Nvidia. They're trying to drop prices. Ever since we had Prime Day a few weeks ago, prices have consistently been getting lower and lower. In fact, even, let's start all the way at the top. The RTX 3090 Ti was over $2,000 when it came out this very year. We're talking about MSRP. We're not even talking about just simply, a scalper markup or anything like that. Your friendly neighborhood scalper. $19.99 was the base MSRP for the Founders Edition. Now, you can pretty easily find it for $1,400 to $1,500, including models like the Asus TUF and various models across sort of the range. So that means that GPU, nobody wanted to buy it. Who knows if it's because of cryptocurrency mining kind of weakening during the last few months. Definitely the gamer demand is absolutely not there. What does that mean for it to be $1,400 to $1,500? This is where it's important. Even if you don't want a 3090 Ti because it's too expensive and bad value for your gaming dollar, this is why you should care about it being expensive and then coming down in price. That means that everything else, imagine a 3090 Ti pricing here, comes down, squishing all of the other prices. That means that the 3090 is now maybe $1,100 to $1,200 in some cases, sometimes even cheaper on the secondhand market. Remember, every price that I'm talking about is usually retail. Secondhand and used prices are historically much lower now. So RTX 3080 Ti going down in price even more, everything getting squished, even RTX 3070 and 3060s. Now, a note that I'll make is that the higher end GPUs certainly faced a lot bigger of this sort of squishing of the price. They went down a lot more aggressively. We're talking about 3090s from $15,000 to $2,000 going down almost half their price. Now, the other GPUs that are maybe mid-range and a little bit lower, not the ultimate high-end, they did not experience as much of a drop in price. A lot of the higher-end GPUs you'll actually find for way under their MSRP. You can find a 3080 Ti for a lot under $1,200. A lot of them are $800 to $900 at this point, not to mention the 3090 and above. Even the 3080, That's where the line starts to get crossed a little bit. You can find them for $699 to $799, but it's a little bit tricky. They're not quite under MSRP. And as you get down to the 3070, 3070 Ti, 3060, those GPUs, the pricing is a lot closer to MSRP, but it's definitely not under MSRP in terms of retail as much as we would like. So as you can see, as that sort of little stack gets squished down, the cheaper GPUs don't experience nearly as much of a price decrease. Maybe for those of you that really do want to get a GPU now, maybe that's a hint. Maybe you buy something that's already a little bit cheaper but still performs well, like a 3060 Ti or a 3070. That way it's less likely that the price is going to depreciate really roughly when RTX 4000 goes out. It's still going to depreciate, just not as bad as if you bought a 3090 or 3090 Ti. Those will certainly take a much more aggressive wallop because it makes sense. Look at this 4070. It outperforms your much more expensive 3090 or 3090 Ti, therefore decreasing those prices even more. But there's always room at the lower end, the more budget range and the mid-range GPUs. That's why the pricing stays a little bit more true to their original MSRP. You can expect depreciation, like I said, but certainly won't go down nearly as much. So if you really had to get a GPU, I would get like a 3060 Ti or maybe a 3070, a little better. That way you can be right inside that price to performance right now. And when the pricing really takes a nosedive when the new generation comes out, then you're not going to lose nearly as much. You're still going to lose some, just not as much as if you got a 3080 and above. So that's definitely the distinction there. I would say 3080, 3070 Ti, you don't get nearly as much of a discount, but going down further, you certainly do. And I always mention, if you're careful, go on the secondhand market. You're going to get the real deals right there. You could sometimes pick up a 3090 for what you could pick up on the retail side, maybe like a 3070 or something like that. It's in nice condition and being sold for it cheaply enough. Certainly can happen if you just stay on the retail, which a lot of people do like doing because of warranty and being a little bit safer. Certainly you can do that as well, but just know you're going to be paying a little bit more. So what is happening with RTX 4000? Now, Nvidia is being very tight-lipped about this. We're just getting a little leaks here and there. Some people even thought that most of it is going to come out next year, including Jay's 2 cents. I pointed out in one of his videos. He mentioned that a lot of it could be stretched as much as a year from now. Now, I think that's true in terms of maybe the RTX 4060, 4070. I think this year we're going to at least see the RTX 4090, maybe the 4080. That means that really high-end GPUs, the same ones that have a much more sensitive pricing structure, and by sensitive pricing structure, I mean extremely expensive, you can expect, even though the GPU market's not that great, I still think Nvidia most likely is going to price something like a 4090 at probably $1999, to be honest. I think that's part of the reason why we're seeing all of these 3090 Ti's discounted down to $1,500. That's so Nvidia can create that little bit of a pricing gap and release their 4090 $2,000. If you want it, fine. If you think it's too expensive, no problem. They're probably just going to make less of them and hope that they sell their RTX 3000 that by that point, if it comes out this year, are going to be absolutely abundant on the market. Not only are you going to have all the leftover brand new retail GPUs that really got stocked up the last few months, stores are certainly almost overflowing with stock of RTX 3000, but you're going to have a whole bunch of people selling their RTX 3000, either from planning on getting like a 4090 or 4080, which admittedly it's going to be a smaller group than like the 4060 crowd or 4070, but also maybe something might happen with Ethereum, and then you're going to see the market truly flooded with GPUs. Right now it seems to be doing okay, but who knows? It's supposed to have big changes this year, which are always delayed. If that really happens, we're going to see basically a GPU apocalypse. Probably nobody's even going to buy RTX 4000, not to mention RTX 3000. They're going to be extremely cheap and flooded on the market if that happens. If it doesn't, and Ethereum kind of keeps going until next year, we may have this sort of really stagnant situation where nothing changes for a while, and in that case you'll probably be greeted by an RTX 4090 at probably $2,000 is the price I'm guessing, and then eventually the 4080. Who knows what that price is going to come in at? I really don't think Nvidia is going to price it at $699. Would they do it at $799 or under $1,000? I don't know. I mean, they tried the 3080 12GB at over $1,200, which really failed. It's under $1,000 now because of the GPU market crash, but it is going to be a 4080, which is going to be pretty incredible performance, we're assuming. So I don't know if it's going to be under $1,000. That one is up for debate. If Nvidia dropped it at $799 and it was actually available, that'd be a pretty big win for everybody. I mean, that's a high-end GPU at a fairly reasonable price that should perform really outstandingly But Nvidia most likely, if I were to guess, would try to drop it at $1,200 to $1,300 like they did with the 3080 12GB, because their reasoning could easily be that it's an RTX 4080 newest generation and they're going to have a bunch of RTX 3000 to squeeze in there. How would a 3090 Ti look compared to a 4080? That's going to be an interesting comparison. That price is definitely going to tank even more. Imagine getting a 3090 Ti for under $1,000. That's going to be pretty incredible as well. That's going to be probably a good value going forward in the future as people scoop up the new RTX GPUs. You're going to see some great RTX 3000 GPUs for a pretty bargain price. Don't forget, just because RTX 4000 is out, it's not going to invalidate RTX 3000, which is still really, really great in terms of performance. Even something like a 3090 Ti, it's a terrible value now, and when it came out at its price of $1,500 to $2,000, but as that price depreciates aggressively to maybe under $1,000, it may actually be a pretty decent deal. It does have much better upgraded VRAM structure, with VRAM just on one side, the GDDR6X, meaning it's not going to overheat nearly as much, and they're typically very competent coolers, and some people even say they're kind of like a trial run of RTX 4000 as it is because of the way that they're kind of structured and built. So definitely very interesting to see what's going to be happening with pricing. All right, guys, so let me know what you think down below. Are you going to build a PC now? You probably shouldn't. Are you going to wait? Let me know what you think. Remember to subscribe, smash that like button, and I'll see you guys on the next video.